Any further questions?
Yeah. Political theorists and philosophers like Edmund Burke sort of talk about the problems of uprooting deeply entrenched systems and how that can completely alter the way that society goes, and you can't know the repercussions of that until you've done it. So considering, as you demonstrated earlier in answer to one of my colleagues' questions, you don't actually have a plan for what happens afterwards, how can you see that that's a good thing? You don't know what's going to happen to the Royal Prerogative Powers, so it just seems that you want to remove something without actually really knowing what the consequences or...
No, you can come back after the next one, but then, yeah. Further questions? Sorry, I'll get you next.
My name's Dominic. I'm just asking a question to the side proposition here. You said that a major problem with the hereditary principle was that it was anti-meritocratic. But surely democracy is, if anything, even more anti-meritocratic, because politicians' primary qualification for running our country is that they can win an election. I mean, now we don't have economists running our economy or scientists determining our science policy. We have people who manage to dupe maybe a couple of thousand people into voting for them. Surely your proposed system would be no better than monarchy in that respect.
Sorry, I'll quickly take this question.
Yeah, my name's Dan. Every serving soldier and officer swears allegiance to the Queen, and there's a crown on each cap badge. How are you supposed to transfer that allegiance, tradition and history onto an elected head of state who's perhaps only secured 40% of the vote, and whose ideals and views are going to change each turn?
Just very quickly, does anyone have a question for opposition?
Yeah, you were talking about fairness, and I accept the point that actually the political system now, democratic political system, is not fair at all. But I don't necessarily think that means that the proposition that the monarchy should be abolished shouldn't stand at some point in the future. I wouldn't say. Would you argue that the monarchy shouldn't be abolished at some point in the future if we manage to create a fairer democratic political system? And just quickly on another point, I think the Queen does do a pretty fantastic job at the moment. But when I think at the moment the person third in line for the throne, Prince Harry, has insinuated that he's killed, was it Afghans or Iraqis? I don't think that members of the Taliban. Well, from what I know about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, it seems pretty a grey area. Who are members of get killed by the army? So I think just because we have a monarch now who has a positive impact on the country, I don't think that necessarily means in the future we can.
Opposition, would you like to respond to these questions?
I'll just take one and reiterate two of the others. The point from the back about plans and blueprints, it's different. It would be stupid to have a blueprint in detail at this point when our plan is to campaign for a referendum by 2025. If you ask politicians, national or local, what they'll be doing in 5 years' time, they say, oh, I don't know. It depends what conditions will be like. Now, we have lots of ideas, and the canon of Republican constitutional law around the world is substantial enough to pick and choose from those ideas, and there are plenty of them. Executive president, non-executive, directly elected by the people, elected indirectly by Parliament, what constitutional powers will still vest with the president, what will be devolved to the legislature, all sorts of things you can play with. And it's not as though we're clueless. We have lots of ideas, but we're not stupid enough to set them down in concrete in a blueprint, perhaps 20 years before it will come to pass.
Yeah, to pick up on that. That's for the constitutionalists to sort out. I'm not a constitutional expert. We have constitutional experts. We'll be well out of the system by the time that comes along. Some of your arguments, well, no, sorry, in terms of the debate. Some of the arguments you talk about unleashing a problem that we don't really understand. This is the scare tactics. You know, MPs tell us, well, we must be careful about voting for something. These are the people. The nerve of MPs to say that we don't know what we're voting for. The very existence depends on it. You seem to be implying that, or that it's too complicated. You know, we don't know what we're unleashing. Well, I find tax complicated, but I still have to pay it. You know, that is not a reason to tackle the issue. the situation on the army, not Navy strangely, but the army and the RAF swearing allegiance and the police force. We have members from those services in our midst. You know, people. Yeah, I mean, I've been on the streets of Manchester with ex-police officers. You know, so there's this strange situation we have in this country where it's patriotic. Well, we believe we're the true patriots because we want what's best for Britain.
Hear.
Yeah, just coming back to the, I was slightly confused by the response to the gentleman at the back's question there. I think that's what's really scary, as far as they're saying scare tactics, is that they've come to a debate with no desire really to debate the consequences of that which they are proposing. They have given you an idea of what they're looking for. We've sort of picked a huge gaping hole in that, and then they've gone back to saying, well, we're not stupid enough to make plans. How can we even have an open discussion about something if they won't tell us what their idea is? They said about the non-politicised executive, that's total nonsense, right? You know it's going to be a politician that they're going to get in. So I think that they're on very dodgy ground now. They're trying to sort of scuttle them back to not committing in any way to any particular policy, because that is an area that's quite weak in their argument. On your point about the parliamentary system coming, I would never consider a presidency or anything. I think the monarchy is a great system. I think the reasons that we talked about is it's very positive. I'm not a monarchist because of the fact that I just think that you know the alternative is bad. I'm a monarchist because I believe that the system of monarchy actually, the constitution of monarchy actually works well. Parliament, there's a lot of things we can reform about Parliament. You know, you could even reform the voting system, but I think people will whine against that. I don't know, maybe that's justification for having a referendum on the monarchy. But yeah, so I think that for me, no, that's not the issue. I have a positive belief in monarchy, not a negative.
Yeah, I mean, despite what Republic would have you believe, I do have democratic trends in me, and I support having a quick chambers elected. I do support democracy. I do like Ray's line. We know what's best for Britain. I think probably the British people themselves are the best people to decide that. And if they keep voting for parties that keep voting for parties that want to keep the monarchy and they keep showing up at royal events, then you know, I think they might know better than you do. Another point that I think we also need to have a think about what we want our head of state to do. We want our head of state to be ceremonial, to open Parliament, to go to what to do, whether we do this, they went to the new, brilliant new chemotherapy place in Luton and opened that. That's the sort of thing we want them to do, levitate by party politics. Then I think that the current system we have now is brilliant. You said go to a pub and you'll find the monarchy is divisive. Well, imagine we had a Conservative president. I think if you went to a pub in Manchester, that would be downside more than the people than having Queen Elizabeth II as our head of state, or Prince Charles or anything. The Prince Harry point, you know, he is a soldier, and soldiers. That's what they do. So you know, he's done his job. We can argue about the merits of the Afghanistan and Iraq war, and I hope we do in the pub afterwards. But I mean, I don't think you can